Hi everyone, Nancy here. It is September 5, 2021. And it is, what time? I'm looking at my watch. It is 3:36. Let me see. No, it's 3:31 in the afternoon. Like, is it 3:31? No, it's 2:31. It's 2:31 in the afternoon, and the temperature outside is plus 20 25, and in US terms that is 76 degrees. It is either plus 25 or plus 26. I don't remember. It's one of the two, and it's 76 degrees in US terms. It is nice and hot and warm. It's warm, not hot. It's nice and toasty, yummy warm in the sun, but it is very cold in the shade. So I am wearing a light sweater, and yes, because it's cold for me. And when I came out here a few minutes ago, I said, uh-oh, I better go back inside and put on a scarf, because I had been thinking about putting on a scarf before I came out. And then when I came out and I realized how windy it was, I'm like, oh, it's so cold. So I went back inside and I put a scarf around my neck, and I feel a little bit better. And I can still feel a little bit of a cold, because the sweater that I'm wearing, it's a knitted sweater, and it's got, like, for some of you guys that do crochet or knitting, you know those sweaters that have the patterns are, the holes are really big, right? So you can see whatever shirt you're wearing underneath. So that's the kind of sweater that I'm wearing. It's a knitted sweater that has large holes all over the place. But I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath and my scarf, so I'm okay. Anyways, guys, I wanted to tell you about you know how God comes through for you. Like, he always comes through for us, right? But you know those times when God comes through for you right at the time when you're needing something. You know, you're dealing with something and you don't know how you're going to handle it, or how you're going to you know, how are you going to deal with it? And when all of a sudden something happens that it brings you like a solution or an answer or some kind of a relief for that situation, okay? That is God. And I just wanted to dedicate this this video to somebody that I met who helped me, who God used in that way to help me during a time when I was feeling very distressed. Hold on, guys. There's a car coming out of the underground parking. For those of you who don't know, the cars will beep like that when they're either ascending or descending, just to warn other cars of, you know, that they're coming, and to avoid an accident. And so, yes, so I will tell you what happened. 5 years ago, a relative of mine was going through something, an illness, that eventually, you know, they ended up passing away. Okay? Now this relative was and still is, because they are in heaven today, and they are a very strong believer in the Lord Jesus. From the time they were born all the way up until they went home, they believed in the Lord Jesus. So I know where they went, and they I was very close to this relative, and this relative was very close to me. Okay, so the relative, they went home in January of 2016. So that's 5 years ago. And I can't believe how fast time flies. Okay, so I went, when my relative was in the hospital, they weren't there for too long. They were there for 2 weeks before they went to heaven. because the illness had already advanced to a stage where the doctors said, okay, it's time to place the patient into the hospital because they have this amount of time left and we need to have them here now. So other relatives, the children of this relative arranged, to have their parent to put them into the hospital. Okay, so that's what happened. And the children of the relative were there every single day, from the morning all the way, like 12 hours a day. They were there every day. So my relative was never alone. And I would go in every day. I would go in to visit them every 3 days, because with the state that I'm in right now, I couldn't handle going in every day because it was too much on my body. So I would go in every 3 days, and I would stay for 12 hours, and so so that's how I would spend my day there with them and talking and everything. And yes, that's how I would spend my time. And so anyway, then more towards the end of January, I could tell that my relative was going. Now they were still conscious, they were still awake, they were no longer really talking. They didn't have the strength to talk. They would say, they had enough strength to say yes, no, okay, like that. Not full sentences. They were just they were too tired to make full sentences, but they were very alert, very awake. I mean, they were moving around. They could do all of that, right? Their head from side to side. Their mouth was still they could function very well, like a normal person. The only thing was the illness had made them a bit weak, so they were no longer able to walk anymore, right? So they were in the bed. And so, that was it. Oh, also they had enough strength to laugh and smile and just, like relate to you in a regular way, as if they were never sick. Okay, so you have an understanding of how they were the entire time, from beginning to the very end. That's how they were. So, like I said earlier, more towards the end of my relative, when it was time for them to go to heaven, I could tell that they were about to go. And I was there on the day before they went to heaven. And on that day, when I went to go visit them, I was doing filming and everything, right? Because I used to film on my way there on the streetcar and in the hospital, in certain areas of the hospital. And I'm going to find some clips for you, some video clips for you of my ride over to the hospital. If I can, I know where they are. My concern is, depending on what it's showing, I don't want to post it. But the thing is, in the hospital, I don't want to post anything that I filmed from the hospital, because that's against the law. So I'm going to film. Well, I didn't film any patients. I would never do that. But I filmed downstairs, like when you walk in. I don't know if that's legal because there are no patients down there. However, you might find, some patients just wandering around, so that may not be legal. So I won't be filming. I won't be showing those videos. So, but I'm pretty sure, because I know that I did film while I was on my way, when I was on the streetcar. So I'm gonna look at those and see if I'm happy with those, and if I'm happy with what I see in them, then I will post them. Okay. All right. And so on the day on the day that I went to go visit my relative, I didn't know that they were just about to go. I just walked in with the intentions of, a regular moment of going to visit them and spending time with them. And so, like I said, I was filming when I walked into the lobby downstairs of the hospital, walked into the elevator, walked all the way upstairs, and I was walking. Now, I know that this was, this was not, like it was not allowed. Like I said, it's not allowed to film in the hospitals because of the patients, and I knew that. But I'm like, but I want to capture this because my relative is here and I love them so much, and this is going to be, the last few moments of me capturing them here. So I filmed while I was in the elevator, when I exited the elevator, and then when I got to the floor, and then I walked down the hallway, where this is where the patients are. So I walked down the hallway knowing that what I was doing was not legal. I walked into, well, that's the person that I was filming. Sorry guys, the camera kind of went kooky and I had to splice the I hear a bird. Anyway, I had to splice. Splice means to cut the camera, cut the footage, cut the film. You spell S for Sam, P for Paul, L for love, I for idiot. That's the first word that always comes to my mind when I think of the word I. C for cat, E for Edward. Splice. It means when you cut something in half. We separate something. Okay, so when I reached my relative's room, a nurse walked up behind me and she said, "Excuse me," and I said, "Yeah." She says, "Oh, we're not allowed. You're not allowed to film here." And I said, "Oh, I'm the relative of this patient here." And the nurse said, "No, I know. It's just it's because it's privacy issues and all that." And I said, "Okay, I won't film." So then I turned off the camera right away, and then she left. But like I said, I knew that. I just wanted to capture my relative. But the thing is, the moment I turned off the camera, I wasn't going to turn it on again because I saw my relative and I saw her body, right? I saw his body, the state that it was in. Not that the body had deteriorated, like not that my relative's body had become worse. No, their body was still very healthy. I will explain to you what I mean by this in a few minutes. My relative's body was still the same. What I saw was, for some of you, I don't know if any of you who have ever dealt with somebody I just want to wait until the wind passes, guys. I want to wait until the wind passes. For some of you who have dealt with somebody who's passing, I don't know if you've ever seen there's a change in their spirit. I'm not talking about prophetically. I'm not talking about things in the invisible. I'm talking about physically. There is a change in their body that lets you know, okay, in a few hours they're going to go. So perhaps if you have seen this, then you know what I'm talking about. So this is what I saw in my relative. Okay, I saw the moment I walked in, and then I turned off the camera, like right after the nurse left. Then I saw my relative, And the moment I saw what they look like, I said, no, I'm not filming this. I can't do it. Because every time I was going before, I was always filming. Because I wanted to capture them, right? Because they're leaving. I have a lot of footage of them. But this time I said, no, to me this is disturbing to see them in a state where I know that they're going to go now. And I said, from this point, at any moment they can go. You can just tell, you can see it. But they were still very alert. And they were still speaking in that same manner that I explained earlier. Like they would say, okay, all right, okay, like that, right? And so I just became very, very, very sad. It was like guys, a boulder, a big, big boulder. Okay, for some of you guys who don't know what that is, a boulder, you spell, what? Wait, hold on a minute. I think I'm seeing, are those birds, or is that the air show way, way ahead? That's the air show. Hold on a minute, hold on a minute. You see them, guys? I don't know if you can see it. Where'd they go? Yeah, that's the air show. That's strange because they're not making too much noise. Earlier they were making crazy noises. Anyway, they're too far away. Alright, now let me go back, position this camera. Let me see here. Okay, so yeah, so when I saw, I was very, yes, a boulder. You spell the boulder like this: B for ball, O for open, U for up, L for love, D for Derek, E for Edward, R for Robert. Wait a minute. Did I spell it right? Boulder. B-O-U-L-D-E-R. I think that's how you spell it. B-O-L... No, B-O-U-L-D-E-R. Okay, anyway. Yes, I think that's how you spell boulder. A boulder, guys, is a gigantic rock. Guys, the reason why, for some of you guys who don't know, who are new to this channel, the reason why I spell words is because I have friends in different parts of the world whose first language is not English, and some of the words that we use, they don't understand them. So this is why I like to spell them and tell what it means. Okay, so a boulder is just an enormous rock. Okay, a rock that could be like 3,000 pounds. If you have a small car, okay, there are rocks that big that are called boulders. Okay, so if your car is small and you have there are rocks that big and they're called boulders, okay? Or even, they can even be larger than a small car. They're called boulders. Now, it felt like a boulder, a very heavy boulder, fell in my heart. My heart felt like a boulder, a very heavy boulder that just dropped down to the bottom and like boom. That's what it felt like when I saw my relative. It was so painful because I saw what they looked like. Again, they didn't look bad. It's just, you could just tell that their body was ready to go. And so anyway, I put my camera away, and I greeted my relative, and they said hello. And by this point, they really, although they had the strength to talk, but at this point there was just no will to talk, because not I don't mean like they didn't have the will because they just didn't want to live. Number one, they didn't know they were going. That is something we kept from them, because they would not be able to handle that. Okay, so the doctors didn't tell my relative, because my relative's children told the doctor it's not good, because this relative will not be able to handle this kind of news. Okay. And the nurses also were told they must not say anything. And there was one particular nurse who kept insisting on saying, no, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to tell them. And one of the children of my relative was explaining to this nurse, if they tell my relative what's happening, this relative will not be able to take it, and they will go a lot sooner than what we want. But this nurse insisted and insisted and insisted. So that one child of this relative had to put this nurse in her place. And in front of a doctor, a resident doctor, my relative's child was explaining to this nurse, and by this point my relative's child was so, ooh, guys, you don't want to mess with this child. This relative was pretty much tore off the head of the nurse. This relative said, look, you are going to obey, because this is my relative. If you tell them what you want to tell them, they will not survive. Okay? You have no right to be telling them this information. Okay? And so then the doctor asked the child of my relative, do you have power of attorney? And my relative's child said, yes, I do. I have power of attorney. Which means, to the nurse, which means you have no right to tell my relative what you want to tell them. And so my relative's child explained to me later that the resident doctor was very annoyed with the nurse, right? Because he was observing the back and forth communication between my relative's child and the nurse, and just how much this nurse insisted on telling something that the child was saying, no, if you do this, it's detrimental. We will lose my parent a lot sooner than later. And so my relative's child said, look, yes, I do have power of attorney. Would you like a copy of it? I'm going to bring you a copy of it. And the doctor said, yes, please bring me a copy. And then my relative's child said that once they told the doctor that they do have power of attorney, that nurse, she stopped harassing and bothering about telling my relative that they were going to go, that they were, passing away. But I was very happy about my relative's child who dealt with this nurse in the way that they did. Because, guys, sometimes nurses, because they are a nurse, some of them, they believe they own your relative and they have the right to do anything they want, and that's not true. This is why it's very important to get power of attorney of your loved ones if you know that they are going to go and that they're not coming out. But it's still a good idea, even to get power of attorney of loved ones in case of anything, you know. And so that's what happened. That was the end of that. The nurse stopped bothering my relative's child about telling, you know, about notifying them that they were passing away. And so anyway, like I said, when I went to visit my relative and I noticed that they were, you know, already on the process of going, I already knew that it was either going to happen that night or in the morning. And so I was there, and, you know, like I said, I visited them for 12 hours every time I went, from morning until around 8:30 until 8:30 at night. And by the time I was leaving, you know, I wasn't worried that I was going to see them for the last time. I was just happy that I happened to come on that day, because I would not be able to handle seeing them with their spirit no longer in their body. I couldn't do that. And so, hold on, guys. Okay, maybe that car is gone now. And so, when the end of the day came, it was 8:30. I'm just waiting for the wind to stop. When the end of the day came, and I knew that it was going to be the last time that I would see them, I wasn't worried, because I just wasn't. I was already prepared. We already knew that this was the last time. You know, they were going to be in the hospital because of, you know, the illness was, you know, at a stage where it's going to cause my relative to go home to heaven. I don't like saying dead, guys, because the person, they translate from earth to heaven. So you never say dead, because they continue on. Guys, I've seen people from here who have left, you know, passed on in heaven. I've seen them. So that's why I don't say dead. You know what, guys? For those of you who are new to this channel, my camera stops recording at 29 minutes and 49 seconds. So I'm going to stop this here, and then I'm going to continue on.